Okay, Space Detectives, this is Joe from ArtAlienTV. Now today I've got a couple of gigapans to show you and a bunch of things in these gigapans. Now some of these may just be funny shaped rocks, but some of them I think are definitely not. And come and check out my playlists on my channel here. I've got my channel playlist page up and everything here. And there's loads and loads of videos going back showing similar things to what I'm going to show you today, going back 10 years now. 1,100 videos, many of them showing similar things over all those years on different parts of Mars. So they're not just in one part, they're in other parts as well. And this is a good example. First I'm going to show you this one. Now this is the latest large gigapan I've done of Gale Crater, or just on the top northwest edge of Gale Crater. And this is the entrance here on the left to Belva Crater. There's a crater in there, right? And there's some weird stuff in there. But we haven't gone into it yet. I'm hoping we're going to get some views of that in the next few weeks or months. Hopefully it will drive up here and look into that crater, and we'll get some closer images of some of the weird mounds and strange formations that are there. It's largely full of dunes and sand, but there's some weird stuff that I had my eye on for a while that look like buried structures or ruins or something. And they always look smudged out and you can't quite see them. So I'm hoping we're going to get some close-ups of that soon. But the main thing I'm going to show you today is this. Now, this is the final resting place of the Ingenuity copter drone on this dune here. We got this sort of row of dunes, sand dunes here. And then we have a little thing that looks a bit like an insect or something, or spider, on this dune. Now, it's not very big, but it's in colour, and you can see the shadow there. You can just about make out the little legs, little shiny legs, and the broken rotor. Now, it's got four blades. It's got 2x2 blades, basically. One, and they counter-rotate, apparently, to give it stability, which is why it doesn't have a tail, right? Unlike most helicopters that have a tail. The tail's there to give stability and help steer it and that kind of thing. But when you've got counter-rotating blades like this one, you can control it more by varying the angle slightly and stuff like that. But unfortunately, this now is dead. It's been decommissioned. It's no longer operating. They crashed it. And you can see it's upright here. But unfortunately, what they did, they've been pushing it really, really hard since it's been there, especially over the last couple of months, going higher and faster every time, trying to break all records and settle the records, I assume. But in that process, they've managed to crash the thing into something, and one of the rotor blades is broken off on the end, so it's no longer viable as a copter drone, apparently, although it probably still would fly. It would just be hard to control. So there it is. Now, the weird thing is, that's probably never going to move ever again. That copter, Ingenuity, is going to be stuck there until it's eventually covered in sand, which may only take a few years. So we're probably never going to see it operate again, unfortunately, because it's damaged. But it's done pretty well, and it's a shame, really. There are some images. I'll put a clip of the image of this up, a close-up of the broken part. So this is the final resting place of this copter drone, and it just happens to be by this mound here. And on this mound, not only do we have what seems to be a fossilized skull of some kind of ape or similar creature right here. Look at this. Now, it's got a funny shape on top. It looks like it's damaged. Elongated skull, right? And then here's the chin. You can see teeth here. You can see a nose here and two eyes, right? Now, this doesn't make a lot of sense initially until you darken it up a bit more, and then the details come out, okay? right? I'll show you that in a minute. And up here on the same mound is this thing. Now this is another helmet, and it has a skull or head still inside it, right? Now I've shown a lot of helmets before on Mars. Some of them maybe, most of them I think are actually, and a lot of them still have the skull in the helmet, often with breathing gear. I've shown that before. I'll put some clips of those in a minute. But basically this is a helmet. You can see the shape of it with a head inside, and you can see a nose and an eye socket there and a little chin. You can't see a lot of detail here. It's quite small. It's probably human sized, roughly, but maybe a bit bigger. The head's a lot bigger, but the actual face is quite small. It's got a small little chin, like a lot of them I've shown before. They've got small little maxillas and lower mandibles, a lot of them. They're quite ugly looking, a lot of the ones I've shown. And this is another example. Now I'm going to show you some close-ups of that, right? And I'll show you what I mean, because it's difficult to get this across until you zoom in and look real close. Here is the enhanced clip of that, right? There's the raw image clip in the top right, up here. And here is the enhanced colour version. It's been colour corrected and sharpened up a bit. You can see it's been sharpened, it's got sharper edges. So we have a helmet here, which is that blue shiny material. There's a lot of this blue shiny material in the area, and a lot of it isn't just rock. A lot of it's metal, okay? Metal parts. I've shown them before. This is metal. And this is organic, which is why it's a more brown colour, right? You can see that this is a very different texture and colour to this. This is a head. You can see the actual nose there, right? The bridge of the nose there, and nostrils just there. And there is a little bit of mouth detail here. It's hard to see it. There's just a little sense of teeth there. You can just about make them out. Okay? If you look carefully in there, you can see some jagged parts here which look like teeth, and a little chin down there. Okay? So we got teeth, we got nostrils, we got a nose, we got a helmet rim coming round like this, right? And then we have a helmet shape. It's quite large. It goes right back like this. I'd imagine there'd be another part like this on the other side. This part coming down here. And you can see all those details in the raw image here up on the top right. They're definitely there. I haven't added the detail. All I've done is colorize it and crank the contrast. Here's the other thing I just showed to you a minute ago, up full screen. And you can see here, I've done an enlarged clip on the left. We've got the fossilized skull here. We've got the weird thing behind with the holes in it, which may also be a skull, but it's so badly eroded, but it's unrecognizable. Who knows? But this thing looks like some kind of ape. I've shown ape-like skulls before. I've shown carvings of apes as well. Even a carving of what looks like Hanuman, the Hindu monkey god, near what is a ruined temple structure, I think, in Gale Crater. This is Jezero Crater, edge of Jezero Crater, so about 1,000 miles away from there, but very similar, right? And I've shown lots of these before, and you can see in this one where I've enhanced it more, I've cranked up the contrast more, you can actually see these details better. You can actually see the teeth here, 1, 2, 3, 4. We got nostrils here, one here, and 2 eyes, one here and one here. Okay? And even more so, if you look at it real close, look at this. You've got the teeth, you've got the nostrils with quite a flat nose and a sort of shriveled and wrinkly kind of face and cheek detail here, and mummified eyes, which have now become mineralized like the rest of it seems to have. Now, the thing is, the conditions on Mars are very conducive to this kind of preservation. As I've said from the beginning, it's very cold, it's extremely dry, and things, when they die, literally mummify in the mineralized kind of sand and sediment sand, which is here, which is full of sulfates and stuff, which will preserve them like salt would, and kind of mineralizes them in a very short space of time. In other words, they mummify within a matter of weeks. And on Earth, this happens at a place called Lake Natron. I've done a bunch of videos about that. I'll put a link to that at the end of this video on how that happens and how it works. But basically, things crystallize in the salts and minerals and then mineralize over time. So they get preserved straight away, and then they mineralize and change into these kind of stone-looking things like this, okay? So there we have it. It looks like an ape. It's probably some kind of similar creature. I don't know. It could be almost anything. It may even be a marine creature, but this to me looks like a gorilla, almost gorilla-like skull. And it's become mummified and then mineralized over time, okay? Which is why it looks like a rock. Because basically it has turned into a type of rock, okay? There we have it. There's the detail. I mean, I was going to show you it in here very quickly, and I'll just point out those details again. There's the thing there. Here's the close-up. I'll do it on the close-up because you can probably see that better. It's pretty self-explanatory. We've got two eyes, two quite clear nostrils with quite a wide nose like this, very ape-like. We even have a sort of upper lip. We have teeth here, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's more teeth back here as well, but they're all kind of like probably under the lip, which comes to there, right? And then what you're seeing here is when it died, which is common with mummies. The face shrivels up, and then you can see kind of through the skin, right? The fat dissipates in the face, and you're left with skin and bone. Generally, you don't get much fatty material left. So what you get a sort of semi-transparent skin, and you can see the teeth through the skin. Often, just look at some of the ancient mummies from Egypt. That's all you have to do. Okay, so that's the details there. Okay, get rid of that. And this thing behind is pretty weird, with these holes in it. Now this may just be scalloped out by the wind, but it's a good chance that this is also a skull of some sort. But we're seeing it from a funny angle, and it's probably broken. Who knows, right? And here's that warrior dude in the helmet. Unbelievable. Well, I found this, I thought, another one. And there's others in this area that I've shown before, of Jezero, but also in Gale Crater, near the other rover. A whole load of them. Some of them have like apparatus on their mouth or in their nose. So they were obviously there, some of them, after the atmosphere changed and needed to wear breathing gear on the surface, right? But let's go in close. There's not a great deal of detail in this because it's a bit of a distance away, but it's pretty large. I mean, a human skull would probably come to like there or like that, right? So it's got big, elongated cranium with a large sort of metal helmet, which comes to here. You've got detail here, like a rim on it that comes up and over like that and round. You have an eye socket, and if you go in real close and look really closely, you can just about make out a darker eye there. And it's in shadow, so you can't really see it. There's the nose bridge, there's the nostril, there's another nostril here. If you look very carefully, just here, you can see teeth and a sort of mouth with jagged details here coming back, okay? But it's a bit vague because it's in shadow and we're not really close enough, but it's there. Right, let's get rid of that. There's also some detail here in the helmet that's like another head wound. Now, a surprising number of the helmets I've shown before have these details on the helmet where they look like they've been shot with a bullet or something. Or some of them look like they've been hit with a hammer or something like that. like a warhammer or something. Because often you see with these, and I'll show examples of that in a second, just to show I'm not making this up. There were probably multiple wars on Mars, but a lot of these helmets have heads still in them. Now, this was probably decapitated or maybe buried in the sand, right? So what we may be looking at is a head that's on display for some reason, and we also may be looking at a burial where only the top part of the burial is showing, and this thing may be sat underneath like this, right? What I think they were doing is they were burying people in these mounds, and as the mounds erode away, as we can see here, the sand's eroding away and the ground, it's revealing some of these burials. There's probably someone sat right here. Now, I have shown some of the mummified remains on Mars where they're in a sitting position, right? Some of them are really small, some of them are quite big. And I think they were buried sitting, and you can see where this is eroded down here, right? This mound. And there's mounds all over the place in this area, right? Some of them are very strange. Some of them are very pointed and artificial looking. And a lot of these are probably structures as well that are just ruined and buried, okay? And this thing is sat right there, and it's right near this thing here. So we got the helmet there. We have the fossilized gorilla type ape-man skull here, mineralized, next to that weird thing. And then we have over here the dead Ingenuity copter drone right by it. Right? So there we have it. That is just weird. I'll show you close-ups of these at the end again, all right? I'll put some nice different clips of these for you to look at properly in a minute, okay? I'm just going to briefly show you this one. This is one I uploaded a few days ago on the 21st, right? And this one's weird. Now, this is from the other crater and the older rover. This is Curiosity rover and Gale Crater. And we have this ridge, right? And unfortunately it's black and white, this image, but the detail's pretty good. And when you zoom in, there's some crazy stuff in here. Absolutely insane details going on here, right? We have all these fragmented blocks which are eroded. I call these razor rocks because the lateral erosion, wind erosion, has sculpted them into these amazing kind of layers with sharp edges sticking out. And this is not far from that weird rock with the fine spikes sticking out of it, right? Which I think is artificial. Most of this stuff I think is probably natural, but a lot of it I think is concrete. And we just have some crazy symmetrical looking blocks here. Some of them look really nice, like this one here. And it seems to have a weird thing behind it. Look behind it here. And we have this thing shaped a bit like a dragon or a creature. Now, it probably isn't. It's probably just some broken, mineralized, sedimentary rock or something. Who knows? But if you look at it, let's get it central for you. Use the magnifier, right? Follow the links down below. Click on the links for the Gigapan. Get yourself hover zoom magnifier. Attach it to your browser. Go into your extensions. Look up magnifier, and you can just add it to your browser. And I think there are versions that you can use on mobiles as well, right? They're totally free. And you can set them to your own size and everything. But look behind. So we got this very square slab. And then we got what looks like something propping it up here or something going on here. We got this weird thing here. And we have this weird thing behind it. Now, I've got a colorized clip of that for you just to make it a bit brighter. Absolutely insane. Now, look at this behind. I mean, it's just mind-boggling stuff, some of this. We got this thing that looks like a head with a mouth, a nose, and an eye there, with spikes sticking out the top, right, which seems to be attached to this thing. Then we have this. Let's go back a little bit. I'm too close. If you get too close, it's harder to actually focus. There we are. There's the perfect slab with a part underneath it. And then behind it, we got this thing coming up with like a weird head, like an animal head. Like some kind of weird dragon or something like that. Some kind of animal. It may have been a carved animal. Could be fossil. Who knows? I have shown in the area carved animals, including giant sphinxes, and all manner of things. A lot of them figurines, burial figurines, that kind of thing. So, and including a cat, a dog, in fact, multiple cats and dogs I've shown so far in both craters. So here we are. Here's the black and white version, which is what you get on the actual Gigapan, and here's the colorized version here, right? Which I think is a bit better. It's just a bit brighter, and you got just insane stuff. Perfect block with some kind of weird block underneath it here, and then we have this weird thing sticking out with sort of like a head there, just here, and a mouth, a nose, eye, there and there, like that, and a head with these weird kind of horns, right, sticking up. And then we have, behind that, we got these straight parts sticking up here, which are much straighter than I just did them, right, behind. You can see that there? Like that? There we are. We've got these straight parts up there, like it's kind of holding this thing up or something. But that seems to be joined to this, which has a sort of mouth and an eye and an ear up here and a neck coming down like this with some weird details on the side, like some kind of animal. Unbelievable, right? I mean, a lot of this may just be a trick and the angle that we're looking at. I mean, I get that. I absolutely get that. But how weird? How weird is it? And you can see all this on the Gigapan page here, right? But it really helps if you get the magnifier and look at these things up close. Zoom in a bit. Don't go too far in, and then get your magnifier and have a really good look at some of this stuff, because there's some insane stuff going on. And of course, most of this is just a broken down material. But like I said before, I actually think this was a massive kind of fortified wall here, and a lot of this is concrete, and there are like carved animals attached to the wall and things like that. And like there are like huge sphinxes and all sorts of carved animals in the area as well as remains and all sorts of other weird things on the ground, right? So this whole thing, this is the wall of spikes. This goes on for miles and miles around the bottom of Mount Sharp, and I think was like a dock side wall, and water would have come around here, right? This would have been like the dockside wall, but it was armoured, and it had metal spikes going through it or sticking out of it as well in some parts of it, which is what that spiky rock is, which I think is made of concrete, right? And a lot of this has mesh in it holding it together, which I've shown before as well. Clips of that coming up. So a lot of this is concrete, all right? I've actually established that before, and I think I've proved it many times before, or demonstrated it, I should say. And then there's this thing down here, not very clear this, and not very big. We've got this weird formation here, which looks like a broken burial structure or something, with a strange thing in it, right there. Look at that. We have this weird object with a neck coming around like that, and it seems to be joined down like this, and it's got a part joining it. Now, unfortunately, this is quite small and it's a long way off. I would say this thing's probably only about a foot tall and it's in this kind of like broken down structure, it seems, right? With this crazy kind of looking material here. And I've got a clip of that here for you. Let's have a look at that. Now, when you get in close, it doesn't get any sharper, really. There's the colorized one. You can actually see here that there is a part joining that from here, and it's got like a neck coming round, right? Just there. Look at, I mean, what the hell is that? It just looks really, really strange. Now, I get this may just be the way the light's catching it. It may just be a bit of an optical trick. We're not really close enough to tell, but just really odd. Really, really strange that some strange object in a sort of little cave, or not really a cave, but a broken mound. Now, I've shown a lot of these burial mounds before, and this is similar to that one over here, right? But much smaller. And there's loads of these near the wall of spikes. Now, the wall of spikes is up here, right? With all the razor rocks, as I call them. Razor sharp rocks. Now, a lot of this is concrete. And I'm sure a lot of the burials at the bottom of this hill, probably after the lake dried out here, were in like these little sort of primitive structures, right? Where they would just kind of get the rocks and pile them up in a sort of dome and bury things in the middle. Much like the ancient burials on Earth. And often you find these have collapsed down and eroded away, like this has. You can see the erosion here, where the sand's kind of eroded away, right? And there's a weird object inside. So that's probably a burial, I would say. But who knows? We're probably never going to get a real close-up of that, unfortunately. So we've got a bunch of things here. I'll put clips of all these things in coming up in a second. So thanks for watching, everybody. And check this out yourself. Come in and zoom in. Get the, like I said, get the magnifier. This stuff will be a lot more fun and a lot more informative. And you will find loads of crazy things in here, in all these pans. Check out the main link to my main Gigapan page. There's well over 1,000 now. Gigapans like this that I've done over the last few years, right? I've actually done about 4,000 or 5,000 altogether, but I've uploaded about 1,200, I think. Okay, so there we are, and there's loads of crazy stuff on the mountainside up here as well. I'll show you some clips of them very briefly. This is the plateau that I showed before, which I think is a ruined village or town here. And we've got a darker one here, which shows these weird formations in the ground, which look very much like a town or a set of structures that are ruined. Okay, so check that out. I'll put clips of all these things. Like I said, I'll put these clips in again, and you can take screenshots and do what you like with them as well. Okay, so there we are. That was it. Some crazy stuff going on here. So that the copter drone literally landed next to a burial mound, yet another burial mound, or a mound with burials on it, right, like this, including a fossilized ape man or ape-like creature, a dude with a helmet right there, and there's probably a load more similar things in here which I haven't even spotted yet. Thanks for watching, everybody. Clips coming up now.